New face, new dream. The window was open last night, and as I slept this morning, I kept waking up too cold from the wind. Had I slept? Was I sleeping? How many times have I asked myself this question while waking up, sometimes within earshot of someone who believes the question's for them? I always sleep better for others. When no one answers, I sleep my unperceived normal. My first dream was in snow. I was chased by a witch with a red snowblower. When I woke up, my small bed was lit by something outside. Like then, no way to tell you what I saw last night, just the drone of a nightmare. Who even was anybody in that dream? Nobody spoke like they normally do. All of New York has come to poison us, but nobody's died. Except for once, Helen said. My mom dreamt of a blanket made of leaves so she could pull over herself from the forest ground. It's hard to rock yourself to sleep on the ground. You always wake up tired. Maybe breathing will help. Take many deep breaths and count. Bernadette Mayer writes, it's about the awakening while she sits at her desk or kitchen table overlooking Main Street in the animistic town Lenox, Massachusetts. But what let her wake up other than the comfort of a town that stopped existing when it fell out of her imagination? Not friends with impermanence, but looking forward to it. It's about the awakening. No, it's about the rendering, the sociology of no one laughing, or the meeting point between linen, anger, and service. The antonym of impermanence is urgency, as in the urgency of a pillow or making money, or micro-seasons between a box fan and an open window. Spring is like pregnancy in hilly cold places. You wait for it so long, then all at once, the swarm is dressed very nicely. Before it was Lenox, it was called Richmond, then Yokoton, then Lenox for the last time as a recreation of the beginning. It has a hill called Rattlesnake Mountain, which was of course at first a mountain, then downgraded to a hill, technically now a street, the remnant of a kind of cross-eyed synecdoche. Under Mountain makes more sense as a road, but still not much. How to decide which road is the Berkshire Autobahn? Helene Suzy writes, my myopia is a condition of my clairvoyance. I'd be looking close and seeing nothing but need, what's left, how to get there, the insularity that scatters a field of vision. Is it figurative or memorial of? You should use clay, it would be easier. One thing I keep thinking about is how much easier it would have been to just let the dream go on through my normal day. Here's the witch and her snowblower. It's gray outside. Some milk. There was a riverbed that was deeper than it seemed when filled with water. Easier dreamed of than done in the dream. Francis Bacon wanted to write histories of sounds in the upper region, if there be any besides thunder, of the affectations as love, shame, etc., of the intellectual faculties, reflection, imagination, discourse, memory, etc., of natural divinations. What if these were left for me? I'll stay up late to work on his projects. I'm going to wear something special for this occasion. Vampire wool. A broken button at the collar. I'll have to hold it shut with my hand to keep the cold from coming in. Never dress for the weather. You were scared of all the right things, but always doing the wrong things about it. Living in dripping marble, coaxing yourself to hide. Some of your favorite things are already against civilization. Most dogs, certainly all cats. The years preceding the end of the state were the years you spent constructing a machine for regulating the solstices of yourself as a way to avoid exasperation, pessimism, and allegedly finding other ways of taking care. Nothing that has ever happened is lost. The apology was a kind of pessimism for yourself, to recite events without distinguishing between the major or minor. Terrible, bare, and bleak. Think of riding a stagecoach through the clouds, but people keep coming. I don't like it when people say Goblin Town derogatively. Goblins just want friends and a cold place to sleep at night. Goblin Town is a good thing. I don't know who was the first to call it that, but I understand what they were thinking. Something about growing on the margins of ponds, in marshy situations and on cold upland tracks. Something about the streetlights being orange, something about wearing wool or felt, something about an odd grandeur feeling lonely, something close to Washington Irving but less austere. Something about the poisoning of the watershed, wild culture, a sugar-based diet. Something about magnetism that surprises you, an invisible association. Something about an intoxicated virality. In this exercise of routine of the balance and gaining and loss of micro-altitudes, Crocus and Amaranth are sisters. Not dead grass, but ribwort and enchanter's nightshade. Rude, rough, rocky, stumpy, ferny. The field is a sound body pressed between other sound bodies. If I could choose a family name, it would be Evening Primrose or Christmas. Geologically speaking, there is very little to manage. Cosmically speaking, there is a lot. A ring of Herkimer diamonds surrounding the county radiate inwards. The animistic town. There is very little to do here, and the town is empty from November through May when weary New Yorkers make their way in. It used to be people with money, who had loose ties to the area, a backwood Hamptons or a less Jewish Catskills. Less distance to drive places, slightly worse in every way. Talk to button-up New Englanders who are confused and conservative, the hillbillies in our extended backyard. The Housatonic was either sparkling, or nothing but a shallow brown stream, not very clear. The convergence has a sort of visitation that forms the bias, appearing fraudulent, prismatic but unreciprocated, that still bleeds inwards. For Crocus, it was pointless to go home. Better to wait it out. Snapping turtles cross Route 7 between two marshes on the road from Stockbridge to Monument Valley. Cars stop as they slowly make their way across. Chickens from the Blanchard's house stop at the fence even though they could walk under. People say that the bread delivery man is actually a nudist and keeps a pair of shorts around the pedals of his car. Everyone loves him, though. Co Morgan would pull bids from the back of the room, and people kept bidding when people would call him on it. He'd just continue as if nothing happened. Standing behind him, you could see him do it, point to the back where nobody was, and raise the price of a box of books, a wood stove, 3 lamps. Imagine living on a street named after you. Not after your family, but yourself, and looking at your road sign every day and thinking, this was a good choice. What if I came to your house and sat on your porch? I don't live in a house, I live in an apartment. What if I did that at your apartment? This is my apartment building. I live here. Sterling dragged Rhett all the way up the hill. First he was screaming, mush, 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 but it devolved into Bear crying by the time he let her leash go. She ran around in circles, kicking up leaves on top of Rhett, who muffled his own tears. I detest it. I hate the Berkshires with all my soul, and would joyfully see its mountains laid flat. One knows not for 10 minutes if he is too hot or too cold, Hawthorne complained. How would we do this? How much extra land would that give us for the Berkshires? I want to know how to live afterwards. About how the sweetness in your breath gets heavy in the conversation on flat ground. A note was left on the door of the High Sheriff of Pittsfield. I understand that there is a number of my countrymen condemned to die. I pray have a care that you assist not in the execution of so horrid a crime, for by all that is above, he that condemned and he that executes shall share alike. Prepare for death with speed, for your life or mine is short. When the woods are covered with leaves, we shall return and pay you a short visit. This wasn't as radical as it actually sounds now. Very little about actually being together or the forms of communitarianism we may have hoped for, surrounded by the idea of the Commons, which was just across the street from the sheriff and the jail of Pittsfield. The note was actually more of a collective but anonymous enunciation of the desire to be left alone. I don't think the sheriff was scared when he read the note, because the demand was very simple. That the members of this committee do recommend to the inhabitants of several towns of this county to which they belong to set apart Thursday the 14th for a day of fasting and prayer to implore divine assistance. The anachronism became the outer walls, and the topography of the request was muddled. Something about not enough fasting or prayer. It happens like this every time. Divine assistance is more noticeable in the perennials, not so much in the annuals. There was little left to mobilize. All my friends lived very far away. It was also raining outside. The condition of farness was an unexpected kind of determinism. At first glance, it was mistaken for belief that something existed between things, a kind of ambient fluid, like Locke says, or in other words, the ether was charged for our own benefit. It was also a welcome condition after years of both sensory deprivation and overstimulation, the recourse to burnout. Even Mark Hopkins admitted that isolation did not necessarily assure perfection. Seclusion is not always connected with innocence and simplicity. On the contrary, there may often be found in such situations ignorance and narrowness and inveterate prejudice. The instructions to make a nowhere are not simple. A natural barrier helps but only retroactively, and creates a kind of provincialism rooted in the long heart of tiredness, a wee tiredness. She was trying very hard to sleep. "Mother," she called, "why didn't you teach me to keep my eyes to myself?" "I tried, but you were too ambitious," Mother screamed back. "But now it makes me motion sick, trying to find what's my peripheral vision and what's yours." She lay down on the ground near the open window, blew a spider across the room, and ate it when it crawled back. The tired provincialism is not nostalgic, but buttoned up, a series of oblique movements of a good place to come from and assumed to be failures, an oblique emergence as a swamp Yankee, the coming from as failures, the impossibility of coming except through a series of oblique movements, a good assumption, failure to stay, a significant social force who loved it, enough to stay coming from a good place. Mountain folk, a significant social force who loved it enough to stay. This is the kind of rendering I mean. From common school through Williams College, she grew accustomed to finding reference of the behavior of crows emphasized to the neglect of any other kind of knowledge. Crows, it seemed, were good enough problem solvers and could be looked to, if not directly for answers, at least guidance in practical and spiritual matters. It was true. Looking at the many crows, she saw that they deliberated amongst themselves, always out on gray mornings, knew how to build houses, envied each other only in practical matters like creating a chain of thoughts knotted around a center, content with a small amount of chatter, being comfortable in the dark, or having a good voice. I could be a crow, she thought, a crow's brain to help her rethink problems. Sunlight on blossoming seedling cuts it in two. No reasoning behind that. Guidebooks and essays on crows comprised 3/4 of the literary output, and eventually there was hardly a crow not to be found on any page. Hopkins, arguing logically from the premise of God's sovereignty and holiness, suggests that sin may be a positive advantage of the world, that the eternal destruction of some part of the human race might be positive, that the universal atonement of sinners was unnecessary. He mentioned crows 230 times over the course of 190 pages, roughly one crow for every 2.5 sinners. Also, the destruction of some humankind would show how powerful God was, and it would be easier to be left alone. Mr. Bickford had a guinea pig farm that he ran out of dilapidated horse stables in Beckett. It was unnerving to visit him in his clearing in the sticks with more guinea pigs than he could ever sell. There's something off here, there's something wrong. No one talks about the astronomical connotations of Jesus' resurrection, she thought, drifting off. The discrete adjustment of machinery that restores the dream, no longer to render, but instead to look back, fall asleep, wake up in the middle of the nod and just a string of drool, in a warm house by an open window.